Where we put our attention and where we put our energy is what the universe is showing us and giving us more experience of. And because in the past we've put a certain amount of attention and energy on certain things, it then continues to give us the momentum of that past focus and attention. Now, the key, though, is if you want to change your outer reality, you have to change where you're putting your energy and your attention. Welcome back to another episode on the Daily Vortex podcast with me, Aaron Doughty. Now, you may have noticed the name of the podcast has changed for the final time, I promise. I know it used to be called the Expand Your Awareness podcast, and then it was the Aaron Doughty podcast, but I am in the process right now of building a whole new website that is thedailyvortex.com, which is going to be your go-to place for raising your vibration, high vibrational news, content, podcast creators. And I'm in the process of making that right now. However, the podcast has now changed to the Daily Vortex, which, think about a vortex. It represents high vibration. I also just recently am moving to Sedona, more full-time. And Sedona has a lot of high vibrational vortexes. But the idea is it's your go-to place to raise your vibration, expand your consciousness, and live your dream life. That's the focus of the podcast. That's always been the focus, is raising vibration. So it's like a metaphor for that. But it is now called the Daily Vortex, and it may take a while to get used to hearing it, but I promise eventually we will. But this episode that I'll be sharing with you is on understanding the Great Awakening timeline split of 2021, and it's what from different sources I've read and I've been studying since honestly 2012. I went through an awakening in 2012, and I opened up to this kind of information, and it really transformed my own life. I was very ungrounded at the time. Now I'm much more grounded now. I've tapped into the Taurus side of my Taurus rising. I've tapped into, and I'm more practical and rooted than I used to be. However, metaphorically and energetically, there are quite literally actually parallel reality timelines that are overlaying themselves for a period of time. This comes from the books of Dolores Cannon, Bashar, Jane Roberts, The Law of One, talks about different facets of this energy. And right now, these different realities are overlaying themselves. And I believe that as time goes on, these parallel realities will begin to kind of split, where you'll find yourself in the one that is in resonance with you. And that's why right now, one of the most important things is being in alignment with your own vibration, being in alignment with who you prefer to be, and understanding that power dynamic. And one thing that I'm doing because of this, and because I think it's so important, is that the first 21 days of January 2021, I'm going to reopen up something that's been closed since I think September or August. It's the 21-day Raise Your Vibration Challenge. So if you want to join the 21-day Raise Your Vibration Challenge, 21 days to a new higher vibrational you, this is a way that you can, of practically going through a process of raising your vibration. It's not just videos and meditations. It is that, but it's also a way of being accountable, of showing you step by step what to do to raise your vibration to a new level so that you're a new vibrational you in 2021. And I think this will help us to be on the most optimal timeline as well. But this is like a last minute thing that I decided to do recently on short notice, because I think it's very important. So the 21-day Raise Your Vibration Challenge is right now. It is open. You can join it. Registration is open. You can go to www.aaron, AARON, AarronDoughty.com/21 days. So type in aarondoughty.com/21 days, and then you can join registration right now. There's also some bonuses in there, but the registration will be closing before, obviously we start. So I wanted to let you know of that. Plus, there's one other announcement I wanted to make as well, is I'm sending out a daily high vibe thought of the day, plus top book recommendations, top epiphanies that I'm having, and I'm sending text messages out 3 or 4 times a week. And all you got to do is, if you want to receive those, I've been getting a lot of people sharing them on social media, and I'm glad people have been liking them. 424-304-0104 is my new number, and you can text me the word vibe, and I will add you and send you those daily high vibe thought of the days. I'll read you one just so you guys get a feel for it. But this is like what I send 3-4 times a week as messages like this. So this is an epiphany I had the other morning. I said, the only reason letting go is hard is because we believe that if we let something go, it won't come back or happen the way we want. The truth is, our attachment to the outcome is repelling that which we want because attachment creates resistance. Once we let go of the outcome, we free up that energy and allow it to come to us. Let go, trust the universe, and watch what happens. So that was the daily high vibe thought of the day for a couple days ago. So I send little channeled, things like that 3-4 times a week. And if you want to receive those as well, you just type in, you text me vibe at 424-304-0104, and I will text those to you as well. So other than that, I'm excited to do the 21-day challenge again. It's been 6 months since we've done it. We all go through it live. It also is a way of meeting your high vibe tribe, people all over the world. There's over 3,000 people that did the first one. People all over the world. People ended up meeting up, posting photos, and there's so many transformations from people from that. It's a simple process, but it really works. And the thing that makes it powerful is you're actually held accountable for it. There's things you do that kind of hold you accountable. That's why it's called a challenge. And over the course of 21 days, it's just a new you. And you can go to that page, go to aarondoughty.com/21days. And what you'll see there is also testimonials from people and the kind of transformations they've had. And those are all legit. I didn't even have to ask for testimonials for this course, by the way. Literally, people just posted it after the challenge ended, and they were begging me not to close the High Vibe Tribe. So once you get it, you also get lifetime access to the High Vibe Tribe and other things as well. So anyways, you can do that. Go to aarondoughty.com/21days. That begins soon. Other than that, let's get into this rest of this episode right meow. Can you feel it? Can you feel the energy beginning to grow? And the energy on the planet right now is much higher vibration than it has ever been in the past. Even though it looks like there's a lot of craziness happening, that energy is bringing up to the surface all of the shadow. And that's what's happening right now on the planet. Now, when we talk about what's going to be happening moving forward, at the beginning of the year, my buddy Victor Otto and I, we had a private session with Bashar. And Bashar, it's kind of like an Abraham Hicks type thing. And we were asking him questions. And one of the questions we asked was about the Great Awakening happening. It was about this transition because we have all of this stuff that happened at the beginning of the year. We all have all this fear, and we're like, hey, yo, Bashar, what's going on with this? And we were, in a way, Victor asked the question, and basically he was asking, our lives seem to be getting better and better, even though there's a lot of people going through suffering. So what is that about? And what he said is that there's many different parallel realities that exist that are all overlaying each other right now. And that for a period of time, what we have the ability to do is we have the ability to go from one reality to look into another. He, in prior sessions and stuff that's in the public and stuff, has talked about what is called the glass wall, where we can look through a metaphorical glass wall and see other people that are going through maybe hard times or going through different things. And even though it's contrast, we are able to look through the glass wall and not get completely entrenched and sucked into it. And in a way, that's what he said is going to happen, is you guys can be in the vibration that you prefer and things will continue to magnify. Now, at the same time, the craziness in the world will magnify as well. Think of the energy that's on the planet right now as a magnification of whatever energy we are in. You may have noticed that this year and going forward, time has sped up. Now, of course, time is an illusion, but our experience of time is that time is speeding up because our own vibration is speeding up. Literally, weeks go in what it used to feel like days. And it's not that time is changing because time is an illusion. But we are now living in more what is called a 5D level of consciousness. That energy is here now for us to tap into. Now, for a period of time, what we have the ability to do is to go back and forth between the 3D and the 5D worlds. which overlay themselves. This is something Dolores Cannon talked a lot about in her hypnotherapy sessions. Thousands of people in these hypnotherapy sessions said very similar things, that they came here to be a part of the Great Awakening or the shift in consciousness that's happening on the planet, and that there would eventually be this 3D to 5D Earth split. And that when this 3D to 5D Earth split happens, it's going to be literally a separating of different vibration. Now, the thing to remember about this is that this isn't a actual, we think in terms of very literal sometimes. Literally, right now on the planet, you can be in 3D or you can be in 5D. And we talk about these dimensions. This is a little bit different than density. If you look at the law of one material, which is channeled material from the 1980s, it talked about how in this life there is something called the harvest that is happening, where we have the ability to up-level our level of consciousness from a third density level of consciousness to a fourth density level of consciousness. And we're going from 3 to 4 right now, but also third dimension to fifth dimension state of consciousness. They're a little bit different when we talk about density and dimension. But in general, we're moving from a time of extreme separation where we feel separate from one another. There's a very strong level of polarity, good, bad, light, dark. We're moving into an era on the planet when we have the ability to feel more connected, when there's more synchronicity, when we're doing what we're passionate about. We're in the right place at the right time. There's more unity consciousness that we're tapped into and aware of. And it's a very, very, very powerful time to be alive right now on the planet. You know what they've said before? I've heard many, what do we call it, channeled material, whatever we call it, that Earth right now, there's so much attention on Earth because what we're doing is we're moving from the third density to fourth density, and it's as below, so above, and as above, so below. So many of us here right now, as we go through and up-level our own level of consciousness from third density to fourth density in this life, in higher dimensional states of existence where we have connections to what we call ETs, higher dimensional states of consciousness, realize that Earth isn't the only place that people ever incarnate on. There's many different dimensional states of consciousness, and the universe is such a vast place. But Earth is a very special place, but I think it's important to remember that. Now, as we go from third density to fourth density, there may be aspects of our own consciousness and, let's say, sixth density going into seventh density, or eighth density going into ninth density. The way reality works is as above, so below. Now, a lot of attention is here right now because in the past, there were different civilizations that did ascend into higher levels of consciousness, one of them being the Mayan civilization. They did it in a group consciousness mentality, but it wasn't necessarily the whole entire planet. It was a civilization and a group consciousness, and they were literally in one level of consciousness, they transcended to a next one. Now, I believe that in our lifetime, we are going through this transition, but it is not meant as literal as maybe it once was because we're actually doing this in body. We're doing this in our own body. We're literally taking our bodies and transmuting them into a higher vibrational states of energy, from what they call carbon base to crystalline base. We're going through this right now, I believe. So when we talk about a lot of the fear that is in the world that we see, and people are worried about, like, am I going to be forced to do this thing? Am I going to be, is there going to be more and more craziness in the world? Well, understand this, with the news, the manipulation, all of this stuff that's happening in the world, there are many different realities that are overlaying themselves right now. I don't choose to study the news or to watch it at all, and I'm therefore not sucked into it at all. Even if I see it on social media, I don't react to it because I'm not primed and I'm not focused on it so much. Now, you could look at somebody else, like somebody, other people that I know that get sucked in by the news or are living in fear, and you can see that that's their reality, but that's literally a different vibrational reality than I'm experiencing. You could say they may be in a 3D level of consciousness of separation and polarity, whereas many other people on the planet are choosing a more 5D, and they both exist right now. And I think for a period of time, we will overlay them, but eventually, I think they will split. This is what Dolores Cannon talked about. eventually and Bashar's also talked about, eventually your vibration will be so high that it just simply won't resonate with things that are of a lower vibrational nature. It'll literally fall away from our levels of consciousness, our awareness. And it may still be there somewhere, but we just will not synchronistically find ourselves gravitated to it. So when people talk about the stuff like, what about the forced this thing happening and all this? What if we, the versions of the us that don't focus on that and aren't feeding it, what if we just aren't experiencing that facet of reality because we're not focused on it and we're not energetically feeding it? You see the difference? It's whatever energy and attention we feed is the energy that we are bringing more into our life. I realized this actually the other day when I was on Instagram. If you're on Instagram and you scroll and say I look at something on UFC, I like UFC. Let's say I'm looking at UFC stuff on Instagram. The more attention I spend on these UFC posts, immediately as I'm scrolling, Instagram is using the algorithm and funneling more and more UFC content to me as long as I'm paying attention to it. So if I'm looking at it, spending a couple seconds looking at more UFC stuff, it keeps funneling me UFC stuff. The moment I stop and I start scrolling quickly through the UFC stuff, it then starts sending me other information, other stuff that it thinks based on my prior history, what I might be interested in. Now, the universe works a very similar way. Where we put our attention and where we put our energy is what the universe is showing us and giving us more experience of. And because in the past we've put a certain amount of attention and energy on certain things, it then continues to give us the momentum of that past focus and attention. Now, the key, though, is if you want to change your outer reality, you have to change where you're putting your energy and your attention. Because the universe is like Instagram, it's just an algorithm. It's an algorithm that is showing you where you're putting and where you're investing your time and energy. And if you're investing your time and energy in a belief system that says that you're not powerful, people take advantage of you, you're not worthy, and you focus on those perspectives and you embody it, then the universe will give you reflections in the algorithm, in life, of that belief system. So one of the main things that I've learned to do is to really tailor my own energy. I also learned this because there was a trap at the beginning of the year I kind of fell into with all the conspiracy theory stuff that was coming out, that I was becoming aware. Some of this I do believe is true. I believe there's certain levels of exaggeration. I believe the media is owned by different corporations that have an agenda to keep people in fear, because when people are in fear, they're much more likely to give up their power. And when people give up their power, they're much easier to control. And there's some power-hungry people in this world that want to retain and control. Now, I started learning about this, and I started studying it, and I started realizing that I think there's truth in this. However, I also became aware that it was really draining my energy. And that the more I focused on it, the more it would lower my vibe. And the more it lowered my vibe, the more fear I was in, because I was afraid of this other stuff happening. And even now, you see people that are afraid of, what if this is forced, this thing that we have to do because of this thing? Well, once again, if we're feeding it with fear, then we're literally feeding that reality. And we're then shifting to a parallel timeline that is equal to that. You see, here is the trick when it comes to parallel realities in the Great Awakening. Our beliefs are creating our reality. Our inner beliefs are creating our outer reality. Now, what is happening is this year, 2020, for me was a huge year of shadow work for me. I've done more shadow work this year than my whole entire life combined, for sure. I've become aware of my own feminine wounds that came from childhood. I became aware of my own shadow when it comes to my attachment style. And I've really been focused on healing that this year. Now, in the same way, that's been involved with looking at the shadow of myself, the unconscious part of myself I wasn't aware of. Now, in the same way, as I changed my beliefs about myself and I started to see that I am worthy, I also had a belief that I had to create lots of content and add so much value to people for me to be worthy. Now I realize I'm worthy just for being me. I feel more free. I don't have to do a whole bunch of things and be a people pleaser in order to get love and validation. And I give myself that validation. As I change my belief, guess what? I feel so much more confident. People feel that off of me, and I don't need to seek anything. And now that I'm not seeking, it's all just coming towards me, which is very interesting. Now, beliefs create reality. So as I've changed my inner beliefs, my outer reality has changed. Now, the same thing works for our collective reality. Right now, what is happening is so many people's the collective reality is breaking down because our belief system is breaking down collectively. People are not buying into the news. The news and the thing the elite people in the world that want this power, the thing they understand is if they can control your belief system, they can control you. So if they can put all this stuff on the news, and of course the news is owned by a few major corporations, if they can control the attention and the belief system of the masses, then they can control the energy dynamic and flow of the masses. But here's the problem. People are waking up. People aren't buying into what they used to be told. They're starting to question things. And as they do, guess what? The power dynamic that used to be such a monopoly is no longer a monopoly because we also have the power of the internet. And to be honest, there are YouTube creators, there are podcasters that have more power and influence than media companies, big media companies. And it's because they have more trust with the people that are creating the content and the audience. There's more trust there. Therefore, there's more influence. And it's a beautiful thing because there's so many people on the internet now, it's less controlled like it used to be. But as more and more people wake up, they're questioning their reality, and that's what's changing in the world. The reason everything's falling apart is because people aren't buying into the old belief systems, and they're realizing they're questioning things, and because they're questioning things, guess what? It's freeing them from the power dynamic. And that's the great awakening that's happening right now on the planet. And I think that what's happening is the elite, they know that they're losing their power, but they're doing everything they can. All the last cards up their sleeve, they're just trying to put them out right now. But I believe that there is a form of consciousness battle going on, but I believe that the light is winning. I believe more and more people are waking up, and it's almost as they continue to do their last vestiges of power, whatever they do, it's almost like they have a shovel, and as they're just digging themselves a deeper hole, more and more people are waking up as they do more and more tactics and more things. And I think that that's what will continue to happen, is they'll continue to shoot themselves in the foot. So the things that I really wanted to touch on, my buddy Victor and I, we had a private session with Bashar, and basically what he said is that with everything going on right now in the world, it'll continue to look like there's a lot of craziness. But we have a choice as to which reality we're in, and I think that for we can choose which parallel reality we are in. There are all these parallel realities that are overlaying our current reality. There's the conspiracy theory ones. There's the ones where people are fearful of this. There's the ones where people are living in hope and watching the news. And then there's people that are, aware and awake and not. They realize that this is part of a process. This is an old belief system that is breaking down at a collective level. And they trust that process, even though it's a lot of suffering and pain, knowing that there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of this. Now, one interesting thing as well that I think might happen, I'll talk a little bit about my predictions for 2021. I believe that in 2021, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns of things we can't even really see right now. I know it's not an amazing epiphany thing, but here's something I think might happen. Recently, I saw that Arizona has asked to be pulled out of their electoral votes counting because they believe that it was a certain level of fraud. And I think there was a huge amount of fraud all over the country with the election. And not just because people were online burning ballots and all of that, but I just feel it. I just feel that there's a lot of, also because I have a place in Arizona. I'm getting ready to move to Arizona full time. And I can tell you that the energy in Arizona is much more supportive of I'm not a political person by any means. Let me just say that first and foremost. But it was very obvious to me living in Sedona and going to Phoenix to fly out of Phoenix that it was very, very, very dominated with people that supported Trump. However, somehow it went blue. And that to me was a big sign. Literally, you go through Phoenix, it's like billboards everywhere, cars everywhere. It is crazy the level of momentum you can feel, but yet you could tell that I could just tell and feel that there was something happening there that wasn't necessarily legit. Now, here's the thing. Arizona and different congressmen, there was like an open letter that said they want to be pulled out of the U.S. election from their electoral votes counting because they don't believe that it was it was a just fair counting thing. What I think I could eventually see happening in the United States, and the astrology kind of points to this as well, by the way. I'm not a huge astrology nut, but I study certain people that are astrology nuts, and both the presidential candidates have very strong astrology that actually supports them moving forward. And what I believe will happen is, not that it's going to be like two different camps, like they're both presidents, but I believe that in a way, certain states may begin to cluster together to do their own thing. Like you can even see it right now. If you look at, California, many people are leaving California because they don't want to be a part of that energy. Some people may still want to be a part of that energy. Maybe some people buy into what's going on and they want to be there and they like the restriction and they feel safer there. But what I think is going to happen is different people are going to go to different states, and maybe the states start to have more of power versus just the whole United States. I think that we've become so, and that might look very divided for a while, but what if there were like different rules for different clusters of states and they kind of teamed together and then people just lived in the cluster that they agreed with? That I think would maybe align a little bit more than having this dramatic thing where this is forced mandated and you got to do this. I could see there being, in a way, a civil war if one way or the other just happened very strongly. So I think that something like that is possible to happen. I think that there'll be a big twist and turns when it comes to who's going to be elected and all this stuff. I don't know what will happen, but I think there's going to be some big curveballs in there. I don't think it's going to be this person wins or this person wins. I think there's going to be some other thing that happens. Some different power dynamic. And I know that there's been prophecies that have talked about, basically that Trump would be like the last president and stuff like that. And I think that in a way, things are going to really change in a powerful way, regardless. Things are changing on the outside in a powerful way because our inside is changing in a powerful way. We're not believing in the old things we used to believe a lot in. Now, the other thing I want to talk a little bit about, okay, so those belief clusters that I'm talking about. Okay, so think about it, state clusters. Say different states were to like kind of team up and have their own cluster of power dynamic, things they agree on. Now, in a way, this is also a metaphor because I believe that these belief clusters, I believe that these parallel timelines, these parallel realities that we exist in, there are people that are really buying into the media and buying into the fear. They are most likely going to resonate with people that reaffirm their reality, that also watch the news, that also buy into the fear. So in a way, the people that we're around are going to reflect back to us that which our belief systems are. I was at the gym yesterday, and I took my headphones off to do a set, and there were these two or three guys talking about football, sports. And I remember thinking to myself, man, that's like a belief cluster. It's what they're passionate about, and they're friends with each other because they like probably talking about different football things. I could care less about football. Oh, dang it, today's the trash. I can hear the trash right now, and I forgot to put my trash out. It's all good. I've never really been into football, but I like basketball. So I can see how, I have more in common with somebody that also likes basketball. I haven't been watching it in the last couple of years actually at all, really. But it's interesting because those belief clusters are what the people you resonate with, and the people that you reject are people that maybe don't reaffirm your own beliefs. So literally, think of these belief clusters as well as like different parallel reality confirmation that you get reflected back. And with the energy that we're moving into 2021, what I believe is going to happen is you're going to find yourself in the parallel reality timelines with people that have belief systems that are equal to that which you believe. And that moving forward, the way that Bashar has also explained it is there's these different timelines that exist. And it's like they're different train tracks. And as the time goes on, they're going to be spreading out more and more. And the idea is to get on the track that you prefer because eventually the tracks are spreading out. And I feel that that's what's happening. And there's no fear to be here unless you buy into the fear, and that's the parallel timeline that you're choosing. But I believe that the only thing we have to do is focus on ourselves and focus on our own inner growth, knowing that as we do, we're filling up our own cup, we can then add value to other people, and the energy is then contagious. So the other thing I want to mention is I wanted to tell also my, it's all the theme that I'm realizing right now towards the end of the year, very powerful, is people are learning boundaries. I have a friend that's in a room I have a friend that has that of kids that kind of walk all over her in a way. And it's interesting to me because it's been like that for years since I've known this person. And I can tell that right now what's happening is she was talking to her recently. She's telling me man, I could tell her perspective was she's trying to tiptoe around somebody that needs help, which is her daughter. Her daughter really needs help. And she's trying to tiptoe around her to not trigger her. And the thing that I explained to her and the advice I gave her was I'm learning in my own life that I need to hold my own frame. I've become aware recently of my own level of boundaries, that I say yes to things I normally wouldn't say yes to. And, I find myself sometimes falling into other people's frame because I think that as a child, I didn't have a strong frame myself. Maybe that was a childhood wound that I have. So I felt safer in other people's frame. Also because I had an ex-stepmom that was controlling my life from 7 to 16 years old. So I think I felt safe in that frame, even though it was painful and there was a lot of control and manipulation. And I noticed that I have a pattern to fall into other people's frame up until about a month ago, when I realized this. And now I'm establishing my own frame. It was my lack of frame that was causing that. And then I was in a way kind of a victim of all these things that were happening. And recently something I've done is I got my own house in Sedona, which I think was very pivotal for my own. In a way, this year for me, I was moving from being more of a wounded child into becoming a man. To becoming someone that's really on my own purpose. It's really building my own vision. That means I have boundaries, which means I have to say no to certain things. I have to be selective with what I say yes to. And I've had to be really okay with that and going into tension and going into having hard conversations. Now, in the same way, I can tell that my friend who is having issues dealing with her kids and feeling like she's been walked on, the thing I had to kind of remind her of is you can set your own frame. You could set your own frame and have your own boundaries. And by doing that, then other people can feel safe in that frame. Even the kids that were walking on this person. And the thing that I could tell was really sinking in for her was this level of boundaries. This level of understanding, yes, I can take my power back. I can set my own frame. I don't have to be a victim of what this person says or does or their reaction. And that's why I was telling her, be the change you wish to see. Be on your own frame. Say what's authentic to you. Don't hold back. And I could tell the wheels starting to turn in her mind. And in a way, what we're doing as a collective right now is we're taking our power back. We're setting our own frame. And I could tell for many light workers right now, the key is setting boundaries and not being afraid to go into the tension. Set boundaries. What's okay, what's not okay. And realize that as you do, you're saying, yes, that's a version of self-love for you. I've been doing this in my own life, and I could tell you it's made a huge change in my own energy. One thing that happens when you do something like plant medicine, which like Aya, what I did, like a month ago, is it begins to tear apart my old belief systems, and it begins to transform me from the inside out. And it plants seeds, and then after that, literally everything in my life the last 2 or 3 weeks is transformed. I came back, I literally bought a house within like a week or two, and I closed in ironically enough, December 21st is when the closing is, and I have like 2 or 3 weeks of remodeling before I get in, but it's very interesting to me that everything is rebuilding. And don't get it twisted and think that it's it's a higher vibration that's being brought in. But what's happening is as this higher vibration gets brought in, the old things that no longer serve are falling away. I find myself letting go of old patterns, old power dynamics. And I think that this is what it's about right now on the planet. It's taking your power back and being in your own frame. And choosing your reality by choosing where you put your attention and your focus. And I believe that moving forward, things will speed up. There's going to be a splitting of tracks. I think that one thing that will happen too is we're going to meet more and more of our soul family. I have met so many of my soul family, and I've been developing even better relationships with my current soul family, and things have been healing, and it's just phenomenal the way that this is working. But this is part of 5D level of consciousness. And even though we'll be able to look through the glass wall and see craziness in the world, realize this is just a part of the process. This is a part of that transition. And one of the best things that you can do is to be authentic to yourself, to be doing what you're passionate about, to be meditating, observing your thoughts, to be neutralizing those thoughts, realizing that your job is to come here and to hold light energy, to literally hold that light energy, because as you do, it's affecting everyone else in the world, everyone else, even subconsciously. We came here to be bearers of this light. And the energy being through astrology, it's a time of powerful transition and powerful change. And I am so excited to be here with you and everyone else. Now, something else I wanted to share as well, in case you didn't know. I now set out a daily high vibe text of the day, which means if you're on my texting, if you're if you add me to your phone, I will send you the high vibe thought of the day. It's not every day, though. It's only 3 times a week. I don't want to bombard you guys with messages too much, but I also share my top books. It's kind of like an insider circle thing. And all you do is you can text VIBE, the word VIBE, to 424-304-0104. There's so many fours in this number. I love it. But it's my new number. You could text me. If you have questions, you could text me there too. I engage as much as I can. I do get a lot of messages now that I've started it. However, this is my way of seeing topics you want me to talk about on the podcast. And like I said, all you do is you text the word VIBE to 424-304-0104. And I'll send you those 3 or 4 times a week, the high vibe thought of the day. Yesterday, I shared a book, one of my top books. And it's a way of getting kind of more access to, just kind of like an insider circle, high vibe. And there'll be meditations we do. So many cool things that we do. So anyways, on the YouTube channel, I've been posting the podcast is there in case you didn't know. And then also the Daily Vortex on iTunes and Spotify is there as well. And you can 2 times a week. The podcasts are very easy to listen to. You can check them out there. If you haven't already, could you do me a huge favor and review the podcast? That will help me know if I should be making more episodes. There is a small chance that I may move from doing 2 episodes a week to 3 episodes a week. But I need let me know if you want me to do that. And you can comment also yes to me at 424-304-0104. I think that's it. 304-0104? Yeah, that sounds right. You can text me yes, do podcast episode 3 times a week if you want me to. Other than that, if you could review the podcast, it'd mean the world to me. It really helps the podcast grow as well. And you just type in on iTunes and Spotify, the Daily Vortex podcast with Aaron Doughty, and you could see it, review it. It means the world to me. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace, much love, and namaste.